In the last lecture, we had started logical operators like AND and OR operator, logical NOT operator. And in this lecture, there are a few more slides that we have to cover from this chapter. And then we will move to, inshallah, the next chapter, which is the repetition structures, basically chapter 4. So why do we use, these logical operators? There's a very common, one of the popular ways to use is this validating user input. So what is this? Whenever we are interacting with users, like we are asking them to fill an form, input some data, so that we are saying that we will process it. It is, of course, a very common thing that we do because we need data from the user, but it is actually also very, we need to be very careful about it. It might be very dangerous. The reason is that we are allowing users to input any data. Like I ask them, okay, what is your age? Okay, then I'm expecting some numerical digits. But then they might say, okay, instead of 4 and 0, maybe they said, okay, FORTY. Okay, then I'll try to convert it to an integer, and then I will not be able to, my program might crash. Or I'll ask them, okay, what is your name? Or what is your score? Like, what is your grade score? Normally I expected it should be between 0 and 100, but maybe they entered, okay, mine is 150 or -5. So they can, we are actually, if we don't check what they're inputting our data, our program, then they might also crash our program. They might provide us invalid data. Like, as a matter of fact, actually, this is one of the cyber attacks. If the software development is not, it didn't handle it, there's a possibility that, like, when you ask a user, okay, enter your name, then a hacker might put their code actually, not their name, which might be malicious, and then maybe if necessary steps are not taken, then that code might run on your program, and then it might give harm and so on. So this is actually one of the cyber attack methods. Like whenever you are interacting with a user, instead of providing your name, they might provide the code or so, whatever it is. So we need to check, okay, whenever we need to check the input data, if it is a valid one or not. So this is one of the very popular ways to do it. And how do we do it? Of course, there are multiple ways, but one of them is, of course, with these condition statements. Like we ask the student to enter a score, and then we need to check, okay, is it less than 0 or is it greater than 100? So it shouldn't be in those cases. Then if it is the case, I will print invalid score. Maybe I will re-ask the question, okay, this is invalid, please enter a valid score for the program. So this is, again, a very popular way to use it. Like, again, for the menu choices, like you call a number and then they say, okay, for English press 2, to talk to the, I don't know, for this department press 3, to talk to the customer agency then press 4, and to go to the main menu press 5. And then the user hit press 6. Okay, then what should we do? So it's not a valid number that we mentioned. So and also we are maybe asking the users to input some numbers, like, and then we will eventually do a division operation. So enter one number, okay, then enter the second number, then I will do a division, like A divided by B. But what if this second value is 0? So I would say A divided by 0. A divided by 0 is mathematically invalid. So then it will crash my program also. So I should check, did they really enter 0 or not? So this is, again, a very popular programming style. And also when we had defined these Boolean variables which have the value of true or false. Normally we have all seen this for the if statements, like if this is true, then do that. But it doesn't have to be. In our code, sometimes we need these Boolean variables. We usually use it to, like a flag, to understand if a condition is met or not during the execution, but not necessarily in an if statement. Just to keep in our mind, like I do some, for instance, I'm counting the number of attendance for a student in a program. Okay, I counted, and then I keep a flag saying that, okay, did she pass the attendance threshold or not? True or false? Okay, while I'm still counting, once she reached, okay, 75%, then I said, okay, she passed. Then I'll change this Boolean variable to true. Then maybe in the following code, I'll say, okay, if it is true, do this. If it is not, do something else. But in the main code, I can also use these Boolean variables to keep some data, to check if a condition exists or not. And now, as a final slide of this chapter, now we have these 3 questions. But unfortunately now I suddenly forget all my Java, my Python knowledge. So I would like you to tell me what we should write, okay, for each question, and then I will be able to type it, okay? And the first question is, given the variable c, whose associated value is a string, str, it stands for string, write an expression that is true if and only if c is not equal to a string consisted of a single blank. Okay. When you read this question, your first step might be, what should be? Excuse me? Take c as a value, okay. Okay, I will comment on this. We take the C and then write an if statement. But first what we can do is, let's break it down and try to translate it into simple English. Like, what is it asking? Okay, because it's, well, sometimes we, like in academic English, in order not to miss any detail, we provide lots of details, but then eventually it might sound sometimes very hard to understand, okay? So it basically says, okay, we have a variable c, it is a string, and we want to write an expression, okay? So expression, not an if statement, not to ask a user to input some data and then we'll keep it in C. No, it's just ask an expression only. And then, okay, it should be true. Okay, what is this true? It should be true if C is not equal to a string consisted of a single blank, which what it does mean, a single blank string. So it is basically asking, write us an expression in which check if C is not a single blank or not. That's it. And it is not asking us to write an if statement, by the way. It is just asking us to write that expression. Oh, that's it. Not an if statement. So this part I think is important because I've seen in many students' answers in the quiz or the midterms. Let's say we write one question and then the student enriches the question because, like, what should I do with this expression? Probably I need to ask the user to get some data, C. And then, okay, then, well, probably I will check with an if statement. And if it is true, I will print a message. Like, if it is not true, otherwise I will print some other message. So students are enriching the question, which is a very reasonable action. I'm not blaming that. When you are practicing it, this is very fine. But when it is a quiz question or midterm question, you are just losing your time because you are now making it a bigger problem. Like, you have to ask the user input and then write an if statement, and then the question is not asking that. Okay, so please pay attention to that. Like, if we ask and only write an expression, just write an expression. So for this question, basically, let me write it here. I just need an expression that checks whether C is a single blank string or not. So I need a C. Then how can I check it is not equal to some string? What should I write? Can you say it again, please? Exclamation mark. And then equal sign. Yes. When I say this, it's then C is not equal to. Is it not equal to? Then my statement, what was it? a single blank string. How can I write it? A string that contains only a single space. How can one space character between what? Between quotations. So I just need to do double quote and this. The question is asking only this. Okay? So when I run this, I will get an error because I didn't define C. Okay? But the question is basically asking just this one. So it is not asking you any if statement because it's not saying it. It is not asking you to assign a value to C. It is not asking that. It is just asking write an expression. So I'm going back to a question, which is a string. And it should be true if C is not equal to a string consisting of a single blank. So this is, again, C. Now, let me first assign a value to C just to test my code, okay? Let's say that C is a single blank text string, okay? Then I will write my code again. Then now this should be false. But if I assign C to some any other value, then it should be true. Okay, shall we proceed to the next question? All right. Now, write a conditional expression. Now, this is different. Now, it asks us to write an if statement. It says a conditional expression. Okay? I'll actually go to this part for the conditional expression. What was the conditional expression? Do you remember that? So actually, it asks us to write an if statement, but as a conditional expression. So for studying quiz and midterms, please memorize these terms. Like, it's not only an if statement, it's actually a conditional expression. So I could write this question in a normal if statement case where if this is the case, then do this. But it is actually saying that, okay, it should be written in a conditional expression line. So now going back to our question again. We can first write it with an if statement first, okay? So what should we do? Can you tell me? Write a conditional expression that assigns 1,000 to bonus if the goods sold is greater than 500,000. Otherwise, it assigns 0 to bonus. So let's say that first it is not conditional expression. It is a standard if statement. What should I do? Let me open that. Yeah, I forgot my Python now, sorry. I don't remember. The second one. That assigns 1,000 to bonus if the goods sold is greater than 500,000. If, I think not a bonus, the goods sold, yes. If the goods sold, so I'm writing at the left part, goods sold is greater than 500,000, then what? Then what should I do? Yeah, first bonus equals to 1,000. 10,000. I'm getting an error. I'll talk about it later on. Yes. We should put else, and then we should say assign 0 to bonus. So we should say bonus is equal to 0. I'm getting an error. The reason is that we didn't define goods sold previously. So, but for the question, we should not assign any value because the question is not saying, okay, the value of goods sold. Maybe it's an input that we ask to the user and convert it to integer. Maybe it is any number. We don't know. Since the question didn't ask us to assign any value to the goods sold, don't do it. Okay? Again, just It's asking you only this part. But this is the if statement part. The question is also not asking this. It is actually asking it as a conditional expression. Okay? So when we are saying conditional expression, I'll just go back to that slide again. Did I miss it? Oh yeah. What is that? Yes. I had said that it is just a short way to write these if statements. Like in a single statement, I would need to say, okay, write it in one line instead of the 4 lines. I need to say this. So I will just convert my if statement to a condition statement, in which it has this syntax: X if condition else Y. So going back to my question again. So I just need to convert this. Goods bonus is basically 10,000 if goods sold is greater than 500. Otherwise, it is 0. So writing this as a conditional expression, what should I do is bonus is equal to 10,000 if goods sold. I should write my condition, which is this, else 0. That's it. Is that clear? Any question so far? So just to clarify, this code and this code does exactly the same thing, but we just write it in a different way. And the question is asking you a conditional expression, which means it is asking you this one, not that one. So if you write this, you will get a partial point, not a full point. All right, for the third question, I want more engagement, please. Now, given the variables x, y, and z, each associated with an int, okay, so basically all of them are int, write a fragment of code that assigns the smallest of these to min. So min is a variable name. Okay, so basically, whenever you read these questions, you can just rephrase it, paraphrase it with your own words. So what is this asking? Well, we will have these 3 variables, x, y, z, and we need to find which one is minimum. And then we will assign its value to this min variable. That is only asking. But the thing is, we don't know the value of x, y, and z. So it might be, now I'm going back to my question. Maybe it is an input that we ask to the user, okay? So maybe this is the x part. Then we will have the y and z. I'll just do this copy paste. Okay, so I ask the user, maybe this is the case. This is not question asking, but maybe there are some already assigned values, but for our solution, we should not know their answers. Like if I say that, okay, x is 5, y is 10, and then z is 15, then I ask, okay, what is the minimum? You might say, okay, the minimum is 5. No, I don't want you to think it in this way. I want you to develop a solution in which, when we don't know what is x, what is y, and what is z. Well, this might be probably the first solution, question that we need to develop an algorithm. In all other questions, we were only dealing like write an expression, write a Boolean expression, if statements or so. There was no, I mean, it's hard to say that there are even an algorithm. But here now, we need to find a way so that at the end of the day, we will have a min variable, okay, and then it should have the value of one of these x, y, z values, the minimum one. How can we do it? Now we need a solution for this first. Perfect. let's think about it. And so first we need to develop an algorithm, like your friend said also. And she didn't say anything related to Python, if you notice. That is what we do also. Like, we first need to develop an algorithm, how to solve this question. And then I can convert it to Python. I can convert it to Java, C, C++, whatever language you are using. It is easy. But first, yeah, we need to find this. And then here is our solution then. I will write it as a comment. So first step is compare x and y. Then compare y and z. And then compare x and z. Now I want you to think with me. And okay, then what should we do? Is it like, okay, we compared x and y, because the thing is, when I ask you the question, okay, 5, 10, and 15, which one is smallest, and you will immediately say, okay, it's 5. Why are you asking this? But the thing is, now we need to tell this to our computer. Like, we need to like, how did you find it? Like 5, 10, 15. How did you find it? 5 is the minimum. When you should break down your thought process, so that we should also explain it to the computer. Like, if I had given you 100 numbers, how would you do it? Like, maybe 100 random numbers, and I'll ask you the minimum one. How would you find the minimum one without any computer, like manually? How would you do it? Now, this is what we are trying to do. When we have to explain to the computer how we find the minimum one. So we compare x and y, y and z, and x and z, and then what we should do. And by the way, there might be multiple correct answers. So there's no one solution to do it. But we compared it, but then what? So we just compared write the if statements, but we should do something else so that we will be able to print this minimum one. Of course, you might even change this solution. We don't need to follow this part. But if you have, but currently we just compared. But then what? We need really be specific about our algorithmic steps in Python. Like, we say, okay, compare with x and y. Okay, then what should we do? If I print, what will I print? Okay, if x is greater than y, but the question is not asking us to print actually. It is just asking to find the minimum value.
If x is less than y,
Mm-hmm.
then x is the minimum. Then you do if x is less than z.
Yes. Okay. Good. I think, yeah, you're in the right direction. So basically. Now let's think about it. Let me think loudly. How do I find a minimum? Again, now this is the good thing about the programming. Programming is not only about Python programming or so. Actually, it really transforms your life, because you really always have to break down your thought process. It then helps you to actually in all your daily life actions, because now you really start to think logically. You understand, because we do many things unintentionally. Then you start, okay, well, how did I come up to this solution? And then since in the programming, since you are really now get used to break down your thought process, it really changes your life, the way you think. Even for this one, like, this is the minimum. Like, how can I find the 3 minimum? Okay, I need to first compare to, let's say, x and y. Then, if x is less than y, okay, then y definitely not the minimum one. Then I can also compare x and z then. And then if x still smaller than z, then I found minimum x. Yeah, the minimum should be x. Okay? Is everyone with me? So, like, if I'm just writing my code also here again, my algorithm. But I will first write a long one. This might be not an incorrect, but a long one actually. If x is, okay, greater than y, then compare x and z, and or let me say that if x is greater than y and if x is greater than z, sorry, I changed this. If x is less than z and if x is less than y and z, then minimum is x. Then I can repeat this for all cases. Like if y is greater than x and y is greater than z, then minimum is y. So I can just repeat this 3 times and then it would be fine. So this is one way to do it. I'll just repeat it. If this is the case and this is the case, then minimum is y. I can also do it in this way. If this is the case and maybe this is the case, then minimum is z. So I can just implement this way and it will be correct. Like if x is less than y and z, it is the smallest one. If y is less than x and z, then minimum is the y. If z is smaller than both, then z is the smallest one. This is one way to do it. Okay. Well, I have another solution for this. I'll keep it here. So I'll just say solution 1 for this. And maybe we can write it, let me even code it down, okay? So in order to do it, what we can do is I'll just now follow the Python language syntax, okay? If this is the case and x is also less than z, then minimum is x. This is 1. I'll just repeat that code again, by just changing the parameter. So if y is x and y is smaller than z, then this is a part, and the other one is just z is less than that, and this one, the minimum is this. This will solve the problem. I'll just save it, and then I'll just run it. Oh, sorry, I had to enter some data in it. So x is 5, y is 10, 19, it is 4. Oh, we didn't print minimum, so let's print minimum also. That should print minimum. I'll just run it again. 5, 19, and 4. Then it prints the minimum. This is one way. Yes, please. Yes, I could use it also. I mean, in a simpler way, in a second solution, yeah, I could do this, elif, and then if none of them is true, then I can immediately say minimum should be z. I don't need to do one more comparison. Yes, this is correct. I can also do one. How many times we have? Let me. Oh, it's 33. Anyway. So this is. You can come up with some more even efficient ways. Like I don't need to check or do all these checks actually. But anyway, this is one solution for this problem. Do you have any questions so far? All right. Let's take 1 minute break and take the attendance, and then we'll continue with chapter 4. So please log in your Blackboard.